The public gallery of Parliament's upper house was packed with deaf students and their families yesterday, protesting against the end of Victoria's only sign language diploma course. Kangan Institute says it's been forced to shut the course down after the government cut TAFE funding. But as Cheryl Hall reports, the coalition denies it's to blame.
Many parents would know that communicating with your 14-year-old can be difficult.
It usually starts with get up, which I think everyone has, several times. I'd have to stamp on the floor, I have to bang on the mattress, I threaten to spray water. I come in and out and in and out and in and out, and Kate is able to just ignore me.
But Diana Nobb's daughter is not just a recalcitrant teenager, she's also deaf, and her mother has had to learn sign language.
She gives me her total attention, which of course she doesn't always want to do. Then we're able to get the message across to each other. We've had to find ways and means of doing it.
Look, I get quite frustrated with Mum's, I guess, lack of clarity in her signing. Sometimes it's all over the place and she makes mistakes with her signs, and it gets very frustrating just to have a simple conversation and having to ask, Mum, can you repeat that? What do you mean? And as a result, you know, I tend to lose my temper a fair bit.
Kate McGuigan attends the Victorian College for the Deaf, and her sign language is now way ahead of her mother's. Diana Nobbs has tried hard to improve her signing as her daughter has grown up. The only place she's been able to do that is at Richmond's Kangan Institute.
I've had to explain things to her about, for example, the difference between murder and manslaughter, what is pornography. We've had to talk about drugs, what are good drugs, what are bad drugs.
But Kangan announced through a statement this week that its diploma of Auslan had become unviable because of state government cuts. The government hit back, maintaining that Kangan TAFE first indicated to the state government it wanted to withdraw from Auslan provision in November 2010. And again in May last year, Kangan indicated a desire to stop training those who want to work with the deaf.
No, my information is very different. We've been into Skills Victoria, which is now HESG, many times over the past several years as funding has slowly decreased, to fight for a better position for the Auslan courses. Right up until these final round of funding cuts, Kangan has been extremely supportive of the Auslan programs. This course is vital. If the diploma of Auslan is allowed to close, there will be no more interpreters being developed or being trained in Victoria.
Karen McQuigg is a former Kangan student who also relies on interpreters to do her job.
It would still impact on me because I depend on interpreters in the workplace. I use about 10 hours of interpreting every week for meetings. It's already quite hard to find an interpreter, there's just not enough of them available. If this course closed, there's no new interpreters coming through, and it would basically mean that it's going to get harder and harder for me to be able to work successfully.
Yesterday in Parliament, the Minister Peter Hall produced emails between the department and Vic Deaf and the New South Wales Society for the Deaf.
The most recent being just a week ago on the 18th of May, just last Friday, which says, and this is before all of this issue arose, in part that email says, we have had recent discussions with the Deaf Society of New South Wales and they are keen to come down to Melbourne and meet with us quite genuinely and positively. There's been an indication that the Deaf Society of New South Wales would be happy to be involved in the delivering of those particular programs.
But these programs were never intended to replace Victoria's only diploma of Auslan. Teachers at Kangan say their students will not have an alternative course.
No, absolutely not. No, they can't sort of transfer, if you like, to Vic Deaf. I mean, it's great. They do have courses there, but they're very, very basic courses. They're not the same as the courses that are run here. I cannot believe the decision's been made to cut the course. I think that it's going to be devastating for the deaf community. It's a little bit like going back to the old days for us. It's a huge, huge step backwards.
The Kangan Institute declined our request for an interview. The Victorian TAFE Association
command that but I am genuine in my sincerity to work with them, as I have with all providers of training in Victoria, to deliver outcomes that are needed for people in Victoria.
Well, I think it's reprehensible. You know, you can't strip $300 million from a vibrant public TAFE system without having this sort of fallout. I would say to Peter Hall that he really needs to look at the information that he's being fed.
There's already a critical shortage of interpreters in Victoria, needed for everything from employment to courtrooms, medical appointments and everyday life.
Kate actually uses interpreters at basketball. She's the only deaf, because it's too embarrassing having your mother interpret for teenage girl conversations. So one of the students at Kangan comes to do that every week.
Oh yeah, no, I don't want Mum there, no.
At 14, Kate McGuigan knows only too well how important the issue is for her.
If Kangan TAFE closed, it would be progressively getting worse and worse and worse. If we look forward to 2020, there would be so many less interpreters available to use. How would I communicate? You know, what's wrong with the government? I really want to become a teacher. I would love to be a teacher at Kangan TAFE, but by the time I get there, it'll be, you know, well and truly closed. So come on, you know, that's what I want to do, and they've taken that opportunity away from me.
This week, 500 Qantas maintenance workers became the latest Victorians to